What is up? Welcome back to the CA Power Player Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins, and today, oh my gosh, do I have a special guest that will blow your freaking mind with what she is accomplishing. She's not even 21 yet. Listen to this. You guys are going to freaking nerd out on this episode, get a ton of value. It's going to be amazing. Here's what's really cool. Not even 21, turned 21 in April. She's mind-blowing. However, she got started in the business in sales because her family's been in the business for years. End of 2022, first full year, 2023, 67 clients, $102,000 in income. Year two, 190 clients for an income of $284,000, almost 3x from year one to year two, and is shooting for $500,000 in year three. Where else do you hear and get to learn from someone like that? So please welcome out of Kansas City, Missouri, Polaris Agency, Emma Searcy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Also, I think it's Polaris Insurance Solutions, technically,
yes,
right?
That's correct.
I love it.
Yeah.
Also, sitting here today, right? Time of recording this is January 30th, 11:51 a.m. Central Time, 2025. When you hear this and you hear me give this and those stats and talk about you on our channel, what comes to mind when you hear some of that?
It's definitely very empowering. Growing up, my parents always taught me to be really humble because a lot of times with money and success, a lot of times people that have that are not humble. And so I have always been taught to be that way. So I try to be very humble and sometimes even fade into the wall a little bit. So it's nice to hear that and reminds me a little bit of where I've gotten today.
Yeah. Do you believe that what you have accomplished is what you feel like is one of the best systems that newer agents or veteran agents really could plug into to get off to a fast start and make a significant income?
Yeah, for sure. I have built everything off of grassroots marketing, which are things like walking and talking, building referral partnerships. Depending on what vertical of insurance you're in, that could obviously depend what kind of referral partners you're having. But I haven't bought any leads. I am not a lead person. I'm super extroverted. So I wouldn't do very well just sitting behind a desk all day. So yes, it's definitely something that you could learn and implement.
And so how many referrals do you think and we're going to dive into like what she does, type of insurance. We're going to make sure I ask a ton of questions. We'll dive into her backstory. We're going to also get some tips and some value for you guys along the way. Make sure you're taking notes because this is going to be a roller coaster of a ride. But when you talk about like referral partners and walking and talking and getting referred business, and it's health insurance related, which we'll dive into a little bit. But how many referrals do you think you get on a average week?
I would say on an average week, probably at least 5 or so, depending on the time of year. Obviously, open enrollment, that's going to be more, and beginning of the year, it's going to be a little slower, but I would say that's pretty average.
Cool. It's 260 potential referrals per year on average, right? And is that going up the longer you've been in the business?
Yes. Yeah. I would definitely say doing things grassroots versus leads is definitely a slower buildup in the beginning. It's a lot more time instead of money investment. So yeah, I would say at the beginning, you're going to get having one a week toward the beginning is great. And then I would really say that's gone up a lot in my second year, just because you've had more time and you have more clients to refer people.
One thing I was curious about is like, okay, to get that many referrals, what do you sell mostly?
So I do under 65 health insurance. So there's different products within that. There's ACA, America's Choice, short-term medical, lots of different options depending on what the client's needs are, and packaging those every client with dental, vision, accident, critical illness, making sure you're doing that for the client's sake and for yours.
When you say so health insurance plus dental, vision, accident, critical illness, that's 5.
Yep.
policies, right? What's your average, you think? Do you analyze that? Do you track that like down to the decimal?
Yes, it's usually about 5 or 6. Usually it's all those plus usually life insurance as well in there. That's probably the one that's most plug and play depending on the client. So at least 5, if not 6, I would say is pretty average.
That's awesome. And when you bundle all of that together, what's an average premium and commission?
So usually the commission on that typically for the year is about $2,000 depending on the client. I have a lot of
Per client.
per client.
Ooh.
Correct. So I've got quite a few younger clients, so that's even fairly lower as well.
Wow. Just because you're younger?
Yeah, I'm younger. I attract younger people, so I've got a lot of 20s, 30-year-old people that are either single or they only have one kid, so it's usually smaller, less cost.
But they need health insurance too, right?
Yep.
That's cool. And then is it more ACA? Is it more private health insurance plans?
I would say it's probably about 60% ACA and about 40% of the other products.
I like that you do both. Is that normal? Is it different?
I would say it's more normal for people to only do one type of product.
Yeah.
So they only do ACA or they only do underwritten health insurance products. So I would say it's definitely something that's a little bit different, but it does keep us well versed so that we can help a lot more people instead of, limiting to one type of person.
Also, too, if you think about it, like I've also heard that the commission is really good on the private health insurance side. And technically you can get front-loaded more commissions maybe than on the ACA side, even though the ACA, both you're building a book and you're getting residual income on both, I think.
Yes.
So I like that you're 60-40. It's kind of weird if someone's like, I only do ACA, but I don't do this other stuff. Aren't they running into people that need private health insurance and don't qualify for ACA for different reasons?
Yes, exactly. There's lots of, the main people that seem to not fit the ACA boat are either people that make too much money to get a subsidy, so they're going to pay a lot for an ACA plan, or maybe there's someone that travels a lot. An ACA plan is a local network only, so if you're someone that travels, that doesn't work for a lot of people, so that can be a big thing for a lot of people as well.
I didn't even think about the travel thing.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
We were working on some like health insurance lead stuff. Not that you would ever work them. They're really good maybe, but that's good. Okay, cool. And how did you end up doing this? Yeah,
so little backstory on me. My parents got divorced when I was about 6. It was a pretty rough experience. When my mom left, she just wanted the kids, so she didn't take any money. So she cashed out her life insurance policy, which is $10,000. That doesn't get you very far, especially if you have 3 kids to feed. So back then, I was only in 2nd grade at the time, so I would have been 6. She was looking for a job and needed something that could be flexible with her time so that she could still spend time with her kids, and she didn't have a 9-to-5, which if you're an independent agent, it's not a 9-to-5. So it kind of rolled across her lap, and to which she was kind of like, who does insurance sales? Because it's not like, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a surgeon, I'm a lawyer. It's not one of those shiny, cool things. So when she started back in 2011, she started in the under 65 health insurance side. Over the last, what would that be, 14 years, she has built up our agency, which now does everything from health, Medicare, financial services, mortgage-free life, all the different things. So back when I was 16, I needed a job. So I became their admin, which was, we were kind of in a tight spot and needed a new one. Ours had pivoted out to do sales on her own, which was great for her. So I was an admin for about 2.5 years before I did sales. And over that time, I really grow to learn all of the things about helping clients, and it really is truly helping people. And that's what made me really want to do it. So
it definitely gave you, we both had a little bit of a kickstart naturally because of that, right?
Yeah.
It helps. Especially to be around it, right?
Yes,
around that
for
world
sure.
in general, even though you're not selling or learning everything about the products, meeting with people, et cetera, et cetera. That's cool. But from an admin standpoint, what were some of the tasks that you did before you became an agent?
Yeah, so admin-wise, I obviously would answer customer service questions, field things like that, gather new client information, get them scheduled, help them find their ID cards. Something that I did then that we still do now is handwritten thank you cards, which is something that kind of stands out a little bit to a lot of people. So I wrote all those, and my hand about fell off during open enrollment, but so
you wrote them all a card.
Yes, every single
How many
person.
you think when you were doing that?
Oh gosh, probably 200 to 500 during open enrollment alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still do that for your clients?
Yes, we still do it now. I help do some of mine, especially I'll do all the new ones so that they've at least got that point of contact and everything. Yeah. So yeah, we do still do that.
Dang. I love that though. Like most people don't do that,
right? It's a personal touch for sure.
Amen. There's a nugget, right? So good. And what happens is too, I'm curious your thoughts on this. A lot of people, they start out doing something like that. They're like, okay, I've heard I should do handwritten thank you cards. That'll help. They do it. A few months in, they're like, oh my gosh, I hate doing this, or I get overwhelmed, and then they stop. You're still doing it a few years later. What do you think about that?
I think that there's definitely a lot of things that people will do up front because of the smaller client base that you have, the easier it is to do things like that.
Yeah.
But I think it really tells a story about your agency and yourself when you continue to do those things, even when your book is really big. And it may not touch everybody. Some people are just like, oh, great, here it is. But then there are people that are like, I got your thank you card today, and that's so cool. My insurance agent never did that. So it's definitely something that people really like.
That's cool. That makes sense. Also, too, as you were mentioning, your parents and your mother, Amy Searcy, I think you said started in 2011, who's also sitting in the studio hanging out with us, right? She, for those that recognize that name, she's been on the channel. Amy's been on the channel. Your mother's been on the channel multiple times. Spoke at a bunch of our events. Her and Steve were in Power Players at one point over the last several years. And you have definitely probably, if you watch our stuff and you watch a lot of our interviews, podcasts, you've definitely seen an interview with Amy. So I'm curious, as you hear Emma, is there some similarities? Are you like, oh my gosh, the spitting image, right? I'm kind of curious. And both doing really well. Also, too, you mentioned not a 9 to 5. For those that may be newer to this and don't totally understand everything yet, speak to the person that gets into this and they're like, I get to do whatever I want.
So you definitely have to be disciplined because it is not your normal 9 to 5 where you look at your schedule for the next 2 weeks and this is when you need to be at work. It's you planning, okay, this is the type of marketing I'm going to do. This is when I'm going to implement it. This is all the things that you want to do, and that's going to depend on each person. But you definitely have to be very disciplined, and obviously up front, there's a lot more hours that have to get put in, especially until you have processes in place and people, which is really important. So I, was working a ton up front, and I still work now, normal 40-hour week. But if I want to go take off for 2 weeks and go on vacation, I can because I have residual income. So that's going to continue to get paid. So you could be sitting on the beach in Bahamas and you get a $20,000 commission check. That's pretty great.
That is pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that are attracted to this business because of that.
Yeah.
They also don't realize how much time you had to put in. What type of hours did you put in when you were new, and what does your schedule look like today?
Yeah. When I was new, first starting, I would say I was attending all of the before-hour marketing stuff, so going to coffees and stuff with people at 7 in the morning, 6:30, before people will go to work, because there's a lot of people that are trying to build their business up while they're currently working their job. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff before hours and even after hours. There's a lot of marketing stuff that people can come to after their 9 to 5. So I would say it would be probably 12-hour days-ish, if not more, depending on it initially. Yeah. And there's a lot of marketing stuff that can be done on Saturdays as well that I did take advantage of.
True.
So I did give up a little bit of personal life for the growth. And now I would say I couldn't tell you the last time I worked on a weekend. I don't do that unless someone's on fire and they're like, I'm at the ER, I need help. But I probably work a 9 to 5, but
Okay.
I can take
What about
off when I want.
during the busy season, during the health insurance season? Does that change?
Yeah, I definitely work more during that time. There's definitely appointments from usually about 8 to 7 because there's a lot of people that need insurance that work.
So another probably 50, 60 hours.
Yeah, during that time. So typically November 1 through December 15th. Things after that slow down quite a bit because we're cut off for January 1 plans. So
something just ended January 27th though, right? Or am I off on that?
January 15th would be your cutoff for February 1.
Got it.
So that time's still busy, but not quite as busy. Yeah. So it's pretty, you've got it heavy then, but then January, the end of January, February, March, usually we'll take a big family trip and do lots of things. So, I mean, I still take off probably, if you added it all up, a couple months a year.
Cool.
So
good for you. You've earned that, right?
Yeah.
And you're not doing it when you're new and broke.
No.
No. Yeah, which happens a lot too. What did your friends think of you jumping in and doing this and working 12-hour days and working some Saturdays and not being available as much as you used to be?
Yeah, so that was a big thing because I obviously made the jump at 18 when most people are going to college. So a lot of my friends were going to college and they're like, you're going to work all those hours now? I'm like, well, it's no different than you going to college for 2, 3, 4 years to get a degree, have student loans, have to pay all those off, and then try to find a job. So there were definitely friends that were lost along the way because they couldn't understand what I was doing. They didn't get it. But the people that did get it, there's a few from that time that have now joined me within doing sales because they're like, that have gone to college and they're like, this is not for me. Maybe I should try that route.
Yeah. That's cool. What drives Emma? Where does that come from? Because you seem, tell me if I'm wrong, she is very humble. I have to brag on her to get it out of her, but also seems extremely driven to create a life of her own that is amazing at a young age, but also could have said 102, more than my friends. Could have said 284, more than most people in the industry, and now is like, why not 500?
Yeah, so back when my parents got divorced, something that we had to do when we would go to the grocery store is we would take a calculator with us and add up things. So if you've ever been to a Walmart or a grocery store, they sell ramen noodles in like an 8-pack and they're like $5, or you can buy the individual ones for 99 cents. So back then we couldn't afford to buy the package of 8. We couldn't afford to spend $5 on it. So we would buy 2, 3 packs at a time. We would sit in the aisle and add up all of the stuff in our cart and make sure that it wasn't more than the money we had to spend. So watching that and growing up through that as a child definitely made me want to never have that for my kids. It has built me into the woman that I am today. But I don't want my children to ever have to go through that when I have some someday. So that's definitely something that's driven me, and seeing my mom go through all that and push so hard to have the life that she wanted for us definitely is a big driver there too.
How much of a role model has she been along the way?
She's been the biggest role model from everything from, I'll have to say pretty much everything I've learned from insurance sales has been from her. I've strictly taken what she's told me and implemented it, and this is why you follow the process, because it works. But on the personal side, it has molded me into more than I ever could have imagined for myself.
Yeah. When you look back at that, because during it, like what was an example of, like, you remember at the store and you all had this much to spend? Do you remember an example like that of like a similar dollar, like a dollar amount?
A lot of times we would take cash with us because that's what we would have. my mom would get bonus checks sometimes when she would sell stuff, and sometimes they'd be $20 for selling X amount. So a lot of times it'd be a $20 bill, and it's like, okay, well then we have to do the tax. So then tax took into account. So a lot of times it was like, okay, we can get 10 items for $20, and this will last us through the week.
So like a whole week for $20.
Yes, yeah, that would be what we would get. And I remember
Gosh, that's hard.
Birthdays, like we would want, can we have a cake? And they would, back in our grocery stores by us, we have a Hy-Vee that would sell individual cookies, and it was like $1 for a cookie. And so we would get a cookie and they'd put a little bloop of frosting on it like it was a birthday cake. So that was something that we would get to do, but we knew it was a pinch to do that. We'd have to give up a meal to have a cookie.
You're getting me emotional here. Listen to this story. It's good though, because it's your story. It's not it's not made up. It's what you went through. It's what you all went through. It's what to your point built who y'all are today. And now it's like, hey, with this opportunity for this to be different, and clearly it has been for years now, which is amazing. Do you view, so when you're going through that, here's where I was getting to, when you're going through that time of your life, it's not fun. It's not viewed as a blessing. But later, are you glad that y'all had to go through that? If it meant you have what you have today? Or do you not think it helped and you wish nobody would have had to go through
it? There's definitely parts of it that I'm like, if I didn't have to relive that, I wouldn't. But I very much would say it has molded me and everyone around me into who I am now. So I would never take back those things I've learned. They were very hard in that time. So there was a lot of hard moments and a lot of things, and especially a lot when you're a kid that carries on into your adult life that you have to work through.
Yeah.
So I would say I would still go through those things because it's taught me a lot. I've been able to relate to a lot of people and connect with people because of it. So I wouldn't take it back as hard as it was.
Yeah. You mentioned wanting in the future, your family, when you have kids, it does not have to go through that, right? Do you think that, I don't know if I've ever asked this question, but I've always wanted to, because I've always been curious, very curious. Do you think that by not putting your kids through that you're actually spoiling them? They could become entitled, have less drive than you, and not become you one day? Or do you disagree with that entire philosophy? What is your honest thoughts and opinion on that?
I would say that there is definitely a line between entitling and not having anything.
Yeah.
So I think like something that we did after my parents had built up their agency a little bit, when we would buy a car for our 16th birthday, our parents would pay for half of it, up to $10,000. We would have to pay for half, and if it was more than 10, we would have to come up with the rest. So I think that there are definitely ways to implement things so that you don't end up with entitled kids, because I went to school with a lot of those, and I don't want that for anybody. I know how those people treat people, and I don't want that. So I think that there's a healthy in between on teaching your kids about nice things and having nice things and how to take care of them, but there's also a part where you need to see in what other people go through. Yeah. And so that was, I would say, somewhere in between.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I saw my parents do that. Did we go from living in a 700 square foot home in Arkansas with no money to seeing the insurance business change our life? Totally. And did they spoil us? And they probably did. Thankfully, we were taught the right lessons that we're still extremely driven and want an amazing life, right? And our family still went through stuff that we can bring with us, whether we see it as a blessing or not, it always ends up being one, for sure, and people always say, hey, God never puts us through more than we can handle. And I would say he put y'all through a lot. I'm sure there's more that, related to that. When you mentioned some other kids, though, that you went to school with that are maybe similar ages, we don't have to get into names in case they watch things, okay? But obviously, I'm interviewing you, so you can say whatever you want. But did when you talk about treating people a different way, speak to that, but also, are they working hard today?
So there's a lot to that, because when my parents started, I was in second grade. And then when the agency really started to grow, I was about in high school. So there was a lot of those people that kind of saw me through that process. So something that I remember as a kid is when I was in public school, there were two lunch lines. There was a lunch line that you would go through and you'd get all the normal food. And there's what I like to call the poor people lunch line, where you would only get milk in a carton. And if you know what that's like, the inside of a paper milk carton gets a little gross. So there was a certain line that the people would go through when you didn't have money. And so over time going through school, after my parents had built up their agency a little bit, I ended up going to the not poor line. And so there were a lot of kids when my parents moved into the first house that I ever lived in as a kid, because we lived in an apartment for about 8 years. Our house had a pool, and a lot of the people that were not friends with me in the beginning then wanted to be friends with me because you have a cool house and you have a pool and you have whatever.
How'd you feel about that?
In the time, it's definitely pretty like frustrating, and to see people that wouldn't necessarily be friends with you and then want to be, it's definitely something hard to learn and understand, especially as a teenager. As a girl, you're going through a lot of things at that time. That's just something to add to the list. So that can be, it's pretty frustrating to see at that time, and kind of shows people's true colors a little bit. So now, a lot of the people that I know from school, there are a lot of people that I know that watch from afar, especially some of those ones that kind of looked down on me back then. And so to all those people, I hope that they're doing great, and I hope they're successful in their lives. And there are some that have seen from afar that have then asked me, hey, what are you doing? What do you do for a living? And so I think that there's more to that for those people, to maybe explore more and see what life has to give.
Yep. And those that were maybe entitled and had spoiled lives and had good lives, we can call it whatever, that maybe they end up getting humbled by life,
Yes.
unfortunately, later, and then things change. I relate to the story you're sharing, not in an exact way by any means, but it's interesting. We both grew up in parents around the insurance business, and we saw them go from no money, counting money just to see if they can, put food on the table, to having it's funny you share that story. It made me think about, we moved around in Arkansas, little bitty. I'm talking the first house wasn't even as big as a studio. But then you see my parents move around Arkansas to these different states, to different parts of Arkansas, Wynn, Jonesboro, Cabot, as my dad's moving up in insurance. And then the first house in Missouri was a little bigger. I think it was probably close to 4,000 square feet, and it had a pool. And it's interesting because if you see the trajectory of the life that we saw happen, right, in different ways. It's interesting because even though, yes, we end up in the not poor line as a teenager, you end up seeing this life that you also don't want to not have too. You don't want the one you grew up in, but you don't want to not have the one that you had the rest of your childhood. I always wonder how much that fueled me to create my own life so that I could have the house and the pool and all the things, right? And thankfully and gratefully we do now, right? even though we've been through a lot the last couple of years, we still have, Lauren and I are crazy blessed. Like I'm in a small group at church. I co-lead a small group at church. And I promise I'm gonna get back to asking Emma questions. I'm just thinking of a few things. Okay, I'm sorry for hijacking this for a second because she's rocking it. But I'm in this small group, business owner support group, and I'm co-leading this group at church. And I'm going into this group thinking, maybe I'm not qualified to lead a group like this. There's probably gonna be way bigger businesses than me, et cetera, et cetera. And then I leave and I come home and I'm like, Lauren, it's super humbling because we have one of the biggest businesses in that group and we have a bunch of staff and just do way more in revenue than we ever dreamed. And I'm like, man, how lucky are we, And it's just cool to like see that, right? How much do you think not having, but then not having has played in your success?
I definitely think it's played a pretty big part in wanting more for myself and for my future family, and even to give my parents some experiences that they couldn't have because of what we went through. Yep. So it's definitely driven me to have things. And so like now, something that I loved when I was a kid was horses. Mm-hmm. We had them when I was super little. And then when my parents got divorced and we moved to the city, we didn't have them anymore. And I played sports through our elementary school because they didn't cost money at the time. And then when I was about 15, 16, we had a little bit more money. And I was like, I really miss horses. I really want to get back into that. So then bought my first horse. That's expanded into 4 horses. And
you have 4 horses.
Yes. It's kind of a problem.
When you make $284,000, so a lot of people, it's cars.
Yes.
Emma, it's horses.
It's still horsepower in a different way.
That's right.
So
that's good.
That's became a really big part of my life. And a lot of the traveling that I do is because I'm on a nationally ranked equestrian team. So that has definitely been something that I've only been able to do because of that. So that's definitely put some drive into me too.
Yeah. How much do you travel?
Typically during the horse show season, which is luckily opposite of insurance, it's spring to early fall. Typically I'm gone about 2 or 3 weekends a month doing that. Wow. And there's about 3 really big horse shows that I go to a year that are about 2 to 3 weeks each. So then sometimes I'm gone for 2 to 3 weeks at a time doing those. So
are you able to sell during those?
Yeah. So like say
that's the cool thing. You can sell anywhere.
Yep, exactly. Say it's a 14-week show. I may only show 7 days, but there's no point in going back and forth. So yeah, I'll sell on those off days for sure.
It's cool. It's awesome. It's amazing what you've built and what's happened and all the things. If you were able to speak to a struggling insurance agent that is listening to your story, relating, but they haven't had the success that you've had so far. They really want it, but they're kind of lost. They're down on their luck, low in confidence, not really sure what to do. What would you say to that person that is listening and watching right now?
I would say take it back to the basics. Get your marketing plan in place, get your processes in place so that when you do have people to help, that is smooth for them, which will then have great rapport with clients and have referrals coming your way. So I would take it back to the basics and decide what it is that you want to focus on, how you want to market, what client base you want to help, and kind of go to those things. But also make sure you have a good mentor. That's a huge thing. Outside of my mom, which has taught me a lot, there are some other people that have definitely poured into me that have taught me a lot of things that I wouldn't be here without them. So make sure you have a good support system, and that could also relay into your home life. Make sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with are also pouring into you, because up front when you're working, 14, 16, 18-hour days, you have to be with somebody and surround yourself with people that understand this is a part of your life and this is a time that it's going to be that way, and support you through those things.
Yeah. And it happens sometimes, you know, like this isn't normal for me either, but like started working at 7 a.m. and I was working till, actually I answered a call at 8 p.m. So over 13 hours, you know, that's not normal for me anymore, but it happens sometimes, you know, like that's part of being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, doing your thing. It's cool. Good answer. Thank you. Also, you have been amazing. How amazing has Emma been? If you've enjoyed this podcast, let her know in comments below. We've been trying to get this scheduled for a while. I'm so glad you are here. If they would like to follow your journey, connect with you, what should they do or where should they go?
Yep. So I'll drop my phone number so you have it.
Sure.
It's 816-351-9064. You can also look me up on social media with just my name, Emma Searcy. That'll pull up pretty much everything that's out there. But also that number is a cell number, so you can text it, you can call it, whatever you'd like. And I'm happy to answer questions, help you along the way. If you want to know more about me and my journey, I'm happy to share.
It's really cool. Appreciate you being able to help people, and congrats on some amazing success so far. And thank you for being on the Power Player Podcast.
Thank you.
Yes. Also, thank you guys for hanging with us. What an amazing episode. Oh my gosh, man. I'm looking back at 37 minutes, and we could have talked for hours. How amazing is Emma? Also, if you're listening and you're like, man, I want to be on the Power Player Podcast, or I want to be a part of your Power Player Mastermind, right? With trips and international trips and retreats and workshops and all the things. I believe that we can help you scale your agency. So if that's true, go to CodyAskins.com, click on Power Players, fill out an application, and maybe we'll get to work with you more in the future, like we do all of our amazing friends, Amy, Emma, Steve, and hundreds of other awesome people. Thanks for listening to the Power Player Podcast. This is one of my favorite episodes we've done in a while. Hope you enjoyed it too, and we will see you on the next one. CABOOM.